Oh God. Oh dear. We're doing it again. We're really doing it again, Nintendo. We're really taking your big, huge, massive major release of the year and we're really gonna just muck it all up with performance. We're really gonna take something beautiful, something pristine, something evolutionary, something exciting, something masterful, and we're gonna just cover it in dirt. Now, raise your hand if you're hungry. And if you're not, just like wait a few hours and then come back and we can all raise our hands. Food is a very time consuming and can be difficult part of your day, but it's something you should enjoy and something that's very important. That's why today's video is brought to you by HelloFresh, whose entire existence is all about making this easier and better for you and your body. What I love about HelloFresh is that there's all sorts of delicious meals you can pick from. They have fresh ingredients that go from farm to your doorstep in under a week, and they've even added the HelloFresh Market where you can grab all sorts of snacks, quick breakfasts, and lunch to take with you on the way to school or work, and all of it saves you hours and hours at the grocery store preparing and cooking. It's cheaper than takeout, and they allow you to pick from a variety of meals that help all sorts of different diets and allow you to focus in on what part of your food and health you're most interested in. Make sure to click the link in the description down below because every time you do, it helps support the channel and the show, and it'll give you a special discount to use on HelloFresh to get your first order at a much better rate and to try this out for yourself. I really think this is one of those things that once you try it, you're like, oh, the lights go off, and you're like, dude, I could save hours, devote that to fun, getting outside, playing more games, and still have great food for me and my family. Pretty freaking awesome. So make sure to click the link, and thanks again to HelloFresh for sponsoring this video. Good morning, Mario, and good morning, Switch fans. I bet you can guess what this video is all about. And this is confirmed. This is factual. This kind of sucks. What's going on, everybody? It's Zach from SwitchForce. We got some other news beats. But yeah, let's freak. I can't believe we're doing this again. We did it with Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, and like I was a big defender of that. It's easier, I think, to excuse Game Freak and the Pokemon Company for some reason, just based on their history and based on their games. But we'll get into it and exact quotes and exact examples. And I'm not here to kill the parade. I think let's get it clear. Like, the parade still goes on. Everything is still super exciting and also super mysterious, as you saw, like no dungeons in the previews. But we got to talk about it. So first off, I want to let you know something very interesting and exciting, which is that Nintendo will be at Gamescom 2023. Nintendo is going to be exhibiting, despite them not having a game coming out after Gamescom. Gamescom is in August. It's basically the European E3, and now it's kind of the E3. E3 is canceled, and so Germany houses a very big show in August. I've been once before. It was actually amazing, minus like all the cigarette smoke that was kind of everywhere. But outside of that, it's a fantastic show, and Nintendo will be presenting. They'll have a booth. What do they put in the booth? Naysayers and doubters will say it's just going to be Tears of the Kingdom. Haters will say it's just going to be Pikmin 4 and maybe some indies. But believers will say maybe this is a sign of an actual game release beyond Pikmin 4 in July. Why else would you pay to be at a convention, a massive convention, if you didn't have something? Because remember, Nintendo was not going to be at E3. The timing of this is very interesting because they said before E3 was killed that E3 did not fit into their plans, and yet Gamescom does. So what the heck is happening between E3, or what was E3, in mid-June, and Gamescom at the end of August? What's happening in that 2.5 month period? We'll have to find out. Okay, now let's get to the nut punch. Let's get to the WTF of the day. I'm going to give you the facts first so you don't think I'm just like overreacting and making this up, okay? This is from my favorite podcast of all time. This is from Arthur Geese. He used to be an editor at Polygon. He now works at Wirecutter. He does a gaming podcast called Rebel FM. I played Tears of the Kingdom last week. I'll talk more about it soon. But one, the biggest compliment I can give is on the last day of demos, I still attracted, okay, blah, blah. Basically, people saw new things in his demo. That's great. Number two, I saw major performance issues. Now, there's another one that I'm going to read you, but before I do, let me just clarify that this demo was a 70-minute demo in a very curated area. They gave them a piece of the game very cut off to be a sandbox to build vehicles, and they gave them a piece of the game, very, very cut off to explore combat and a bokoblin stronghold. This is not the full open world. This is not you having access to everything. This is not massive transitions between sky and ground and underground. This is a very controlled, specific demo, and Nintendo, let me tell you, they only put their best foot forward. I've been to Smash Bros. Ultimate previews. I've been to Breath of the Wild previews. I've seen how Nintendo handles this stuff, and they make sure that they show you the best so that you only write the best stuff. Now, you're not seeing performance issues in written previews, and I'm guessing that's because people don't want to focus on it, don't want to believe it, don't want to bring you down. Or maybe Nintendo told them they can't write about it in an official capacity. This is on Twitter for Arthur Geese, and then SkillUp, a very reliable YouTuber who I like a lot, does very extensive gameplay reviews and previews, had this to say towards the end of his video. It's a 28-minute video, so most of you probably didn't see it.
However, the number of frame rate drops that I experienced in just this slice of the demo was more than a few. The question I always ask when looking at this stuff is, does it affect the game, or is it just a visual annoyance? I think it affects the game here in two important ways.
He said that when he evaluates performance issues, he decides if they affect gameplay or not, if it's just a visual hiccup or if it affects gameplay. And he said it most definitely affects gameplay in Tears of the Kingdom in two ways: by making combat and exploration much more difficult and less responsive. I'm trying not to be overreactive to this, because look, we've gotten used to the Switch. We've played countless games that don't have a perfect 60 frames per second. We've played countless games that do have hiccups. But at their preview day, last week, this isn't months and months ago, but last week, and it's a very set vertical slice of the game made so that you come away shocked and awed, which by all accounts, everyone was. Even with the performance stuff, like, everyone still loves it, and even SkillUp himself said, like, you're still gonna love the game. It shouldn't be a deal breaker in any way. I guess that's good, but my problem more from this side of things, having not played it, is like, why are we still dealing with this? If this is the case with the games, why is there not new hardware out to support it? And why are we, like, why Nintendo, whose seal of excellence is something that they've held true and strong for decades, why is this not mattering to them? And I understand that evolution and evolvement is so much more important, and I said the same with Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. I'd rather have a better, more exciting game and performance issues than a safe game with poor performance. But when you're telling me that it makes exploration and combat more difficult and less enjoyable because there's serious stuttering, less responsiveness, and SkillUp said, quote, that it makes you remember this is a video game, a piece of software, and that you're not as immersed, it kind of breaks my heart a bit. I don't really, yeah, there were some performance things with Breath of the Wild, but I don't know if I would consider Breath of the Wild a major performance issues that dramatically affected combat and exploration and made it far less enjoyable. I don't know. There are stutters, there are hiccups, there are major frame drops, and this was under Nintendo's control. So once we actually get the game and mess around and have access to the full suite of abilities, the full suite of weapons, the full suite of vehicles, the full suite of areas, maybe dungeons, maybe not, is it going to be even worse? And I think that the Zelda name, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that the Zelda name and the Zelda series has enough power that it will not succumb to the same problem Pokemon did. Pokemon became all about performance for a while, and they still really haven't fixed it. I think Zelda will not have as many calls for like pitchforks and like fix our frame rate because the game itself is just so darn huge and so darn exciting. And look, by all accounts, I don't think it will ruin the experience. I don't think it'll make it bad. I don't think it'll take away Game of the Year. I don't think it'll take away 10 out of 10. I don't think it'll do that. So let's not overreact. You can't argue that performance issues do not sully it a bit. They do muddy the waters a bit. Like, there's no way you can go away from this and say, wow, that was perfect. I mean, maybe you still can, but in the back of your mind, you'll know that the performance was a bit of a bummer, and you'll wish that it was different. Now, there's no such thing as a perfect game, but I kind of really thought Nintendo would get this one right. Maybe that was foolish of me. Maybe, I should have known given the physics and given the fusion. And at the end of the day, like, look, their creativity, their ability to be wowing us and be amazing is more important than some performance hiccups. But we've got two very reliable, long-time industry sources telling us that performance really is major issues, and really affects gameplay, combat, and exploration, and makes input bad. I will note, just as like my own personal caveat, that these people are very particular to lag. I know Arthur in particular is like the biggest input lag snob, so maybe it won't be as impactful to you or I. Maybe if we're playing, it won't be as big of a deal. I'm 100% confident that all of these previews were docked on a TV and given the best chance possible to put the game in its best light and put the best foot forward, and they still had massive issues. And these were not even crazy encounters. Remember, this is like one Bokoblin stronghold and like some vehicle building in a curated space. So what happens when you have those instances of like a giant whacking machine against a giant Bokoblin, or you have, you know, the scenes where we saw NPCs fighting against enemies all together in like, you know, a 15 to 20 person brouhaha? Is it going to be even worse? And will we be sitting here on May 15th saying like, man, this game is amazing, but, and I think it's the dirty but that I'm afraid of. My excitement for Tears of the Kingdom does not change. This is still my most anticipated game of all time. This still is like the biggest game of the decade. This still sounds incredible. I cannot believe they're not telling us about dungeons or shrines or anything, and I'm so excited to explore it. But it's got to be said, and I figured we'd get it out of the way now. Zelda Tears of the Kingdom has major performance issues, and that really sucks.